Okey doke.
Okay, back from executive. Any comments on the approval of the agenda? We'll vote on that next week. No? How about minutes of the previous meeting? Done. Communications, we have Harris Beach legal alert and a letter from Jesse Haug. Haug? Anything else? No? Alrighty, that brings us to unfinished business. We have none. Dr. Genestri.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Battaglia. I'm gonna go to the podium to talk to the board about staffing. Okay, so as we get into budget season, and a major component obviously of our budget is our staff. Today I'm going to be talking to the board about our faculty, our teachers mainly, and where we see ourselves going with staffing in this budget cycle. And then if you're okay with the direction that we present to you tonight, Don will take that information and we'll finalize the budget and plan to present that to the board next week. So first, a major component of our staffing plan this year is, of course, our retirees. And first and foremost, we had 25 letters of resignation for the purpose of retirement from teachers this year. We will celebrate their years of service to the district, and we are losing a lot of talent in the near future. And we have a plan in place to replace that talent, but you really can't replace that experience. So once the board next week approves that list, then we will make that list public and, of course, plan on celebrating all of their years of service to Sweet Home, and can't thank them enough for what they've done here for our children in the district. But since even before the February 28th deadline for retirements, district office and the principals have been working together hand in hand, and department heads really at the start of budget season to discuss staffing for the 2024-25 school year. And then if the board gives us the green light, tomorrow we're going to start the process of the transfer process. And some teachers have put in transfers to other building that's based on seniority. And Joanne Bayless is going to work hard to what we call settle the buildings, and then determine what openings we will have and what postings that we will have out there. So considerations for the board as we plan for staffing. I know we've talked in the past that we've used kind of 2019 as a benchmark in the district. That was prior to COVID, the year prior to COVID. And a lot of changes happened during COVID. We know that there was a lot of hiring to make up for social distancing. And we also know that the hiring was put in place for learning loss to help students with learning loss due to COVID. But since that time, we've had quite the bit of increase, and I'll get into the numbers in a minute, in our K through 12 enrollment. We've had increase in our special education population. Our ELL population has increased. And of course, through your support, we've added full-day UPK in the district. We have 8 sections in Sweet Home buildings right now, and we're going to propose one more at Willow Ridge for next year. And of course, the 3 that are housed at St. Leo's. So the benchmark year of 2019, we were all students in at 3261 with an ELL population of 181 students and a special ed population of 335 students. Fast forwarding to today, our student population with UPK is at 3728. And that's with the addition of 190 UPK students. even without the UPK students, you see an increase in our overall enrollment of to 538. Students with an IEP are at 395, and that makes up about 12% now of the population here at Sweet Home. You combine that with our 504 students, and we are at 515 students with education plans. And just comparing the two charts now, like I said before, in 2019, we were at 3261 students. Today, we are at 3728. That does include our 3 sections at St. Leo's. I want to make that clear. We consider those our students, and they are funded through the UPK grant. And our special ed number is up to 395 with IEPs and a total of 515. That puts our overall increase since 2019 at 467 students, 277 without UPK, and an increase in special ed of 60 IEP only. And our ELLs, we have 70 more ELL students in the district since 2019.
Mr. Genesti, can I just ask you real quick, when you break down these special ed, are they broken down into like our artistic groups versus our physical?
All special ed students.
Okay.
Anybody with an IEP, yes. I shared this last week with the board, but also we're looking at enrollment projections through 2033, and it shows an increase for us. This is our PowerSchool predictive enrollment analytics tool. So PowerSchool is our student management, student data software that we use here in the district. It has all of our student enrollment data built in. And then the predictive enrollment analytics tool is a service on top of our regular PowerSchool that takes this data and does projections based on several factors. It could be live birth recording. They look back at the past 5 years, look at the trends of the past 5 years, and then predict where we're going to be in the next 10 years. We've looked at their numbers. They're pretty spot on. And we're predicting that by 2033, the district, at a conservative estimate, could have 4,400 students on our rolls by then. So quite the big bit of increase where we were from 2019. That's, if you look at that, it's about 1,200 more students from 2019 to 2033.
Is that including the potential Boulevard Mall
No,
type thing?
this
So
does
that
not
could
include
be in
Boulevard Mall.
addition to.
We asked that question because we met with PowerSchool last week.
Yep.
We asked that question. This does not include the Boulevard Mall, but they are aware of it as they're building, because the board asked us to move forward in finding a vendor for an enrollment projection study based on the capital improvement project that we're going to propose. And they were not aware that the Boulevard Mall could be a factor, but now they are, and they're going to start looking into how we can address that in an enrollment study.
Can I
Did
just-
you- Go ahead.
I'm looking at the totals and it doesn't match the 2024 total and the 2023 total. Are not matching the number that you gave us, the 3728
Yeah,
number.
This is their numbers. These aren't ours. So they're a little off here, but they're relatively close.
Okay.
So this is what they're predicting on a conservative estimate. Yes.
I was just going to ask the same thing because I don't know where they got that number from, but if you're looking at 2024, they're off by almost 200. That's
Yep.
not as close as I would be comfortable stretching out to 4,400 in the out years.
Yep.
It doesn't strike me as conservative.
Okay.
It really doesn't. It strikes me as an overreach.
Okay. With that said, I will, there's the numbers that we had, those are right. So we are up 467 kids since 2019.
That I get.
Okay.
I would go back in time. The reason I mean, Mary and I went through this before, now, and Amy did too, from those seats instead of these seats.
Yeah,
And we got burned on numbers before.
we're,
And it's,
yeah, this is not the enrollment study that we're talking about.
no, I get it. It's the
We're
people
gonna be
doing the
careful.
study are part of the problem there. And I
Yeah.
fully say that.
Yep.
it just still concerns me. It just seems like, I'd be curious what type of data they use to get that. I don't see Western New York in general increasing by any of those numbers. there is a limit to how much place spaces you can build more property here.
Yep.
If they're using.
On my side of
census-
the boulevard, there's none, I know that.
They're using census data for the predictive part. Are they including maybe perhaps kids who are in our district that go to other schools, like charter schools or something?
I don't think so.
No,
The-
Okay.
Real estate trends as well.
yeah,
One of the factors.
live birth data, real estate trends, overall market turnover of real estate, those types of things.
It's just weird that like we have the 2024 number and they came up with a different one. That's all.
They don't have it yet. So,
Oh, okay. I see.
Yep. and I will say forecast 5, we've got an enrollment study from them too. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they're showing increases in enrollment over the next 10 years as well. So I don't know what those numbers are, but our 2 tools that we have available to us right now, this is not by any stretch a comprehensive enrollment study, but both are showing upward ticks. The other thing that we've looked at and talked to the board about are our class sizes at the elementary level. So we took Glendale, Heritage Heights, Maple Mirror, and Willow Ridge, and we looked what their class sizes were in 2019 as compared to 2024. The ones that are highlighted in yellow are actually an increase in class size from 2019. So you'll see at Glendale K, 1, 2, and 3 have an increase in class size from where we were in 2019. Heritage Heights, the ones in green are the same, or back to 2019 numbers. And so you'll see that there was an increase in K, stayed the same in 2, stayed the same in 1, increase in 2, and stayed the same in grade 5. Maple Mirror is also has the most sections out of any elementary school that we have. And those numbers are, for the most part, creeping back up to what they were at 2019. And then Willow Ridge has not had the same growth as the other districts. And we've done probably most of our consolidating of classes in relation to UPK, and I'll get into that in a minute, at Willow Ridge. And those numbers are starting to climb back up as well. So our target, as we talked about, in UPK through 1 was about 18 students. And then our target in give or take 1 or 2 students more or less. And then our targets in grade 2 through 5 is about 22 students. And that's what we're trying to work towards with these elementary numbers. So since 2019, we've added 8 sections of UPK and Sweet Home buildings. We have 3 at Glendale, 3 at Heritage, 2 at Willow Ridge. We've added 1 exceptional classroom also at Willow Ridge, in additional sections in our elementary buildings. So I just wanted to talk to the board about that because we've done a lot of work, and I'll get into that towards the end of how we looked at our class numbers to consolidate to get to where our staffing recommendations are tonight. So at Glendale, we had 2 retirements, and due to the class size numbers or our targets for class size, we are recommending that we replace both of those retirements. There is a elementary and a special ed teacher that are retiring from Glendale. At Heritage Heights, due to our numbers, we are recommending the addition of a half 0.5 in SPED. That person would be shared with the Ready Academy. That position at the Ready Academy is currently open. We've not had a person to fill it because it is a 0.5 at the Ready Academy. So by adding the need at Heritage, this would open us up to have a 1.0 that would be shared between Heritage and Ready Academy. We're also proposing a shift in literacy intervention. Right now, we have 3 literacy interventionists at Heritage Heights and 1 math interventionist. Mr. Perry has requested a 2-and-2 split to address needs in math at the same levels that they're being addressed at literacy, as we see more students entering AIS services. And so we recommend moving forward with that. We do have 1 grade level retirement at Heritage, and we are recommending to the board that we consolidate a grade so we would not have to add a position there. And we could move that position into another position. And then we do have a counselor retirement as well that would need to be replaced and move forward on that. That would be the only counselor at Heritage Heights.
So at grade 4, if you do consolidate, what do our class sizes look like?
They would fall in those ranges of the, depending on what, in the 22 range. That's what we're going for. So that would take a section, grade 4, from 4 sections to 3 sections.
Is that-
We've not gone below 3 sections in any building. We really feel 3 is the limit.
Is that 22 something you're aiming for at the start of the year or the end of the year?
At the start of the year. So give or take a couple students, our teachers have been flexible. That's not that 22 is not a mandate by any stretch. It's just a goal. And so at the start of the year, we're looking at the 22 number. So when I get to Willow Ridge, for example, they're pretty close up against the 22 and they've requested an additional section. We've said no right now until we see what the registration packets come back as. So thank you for that question. That's a good question. At Maplemere, we are recommending the addition of a math intervention there, an interventionist there based on need. Mr. Ryan has asked and showed us the numbers. I believe that he's up to 218 students at Maplemere needing math intervention services, and they are being serviced by 1 math intervention teacher. So he has requested an additional math interventionist. There are 2 encumbered positions at Maplemere that have been filled during the 2023 school year by long-term subs. Because that year will be ending, next year they become encumbered. So there aren't really additions. They're just, when the board sees positions being posted, we wanted to let you know that some of the positions being posted you might not see in this presentation, but those are encumbered positions that need to be filled. There are long-term subs in those positions right now. However, we go through the full process in order to fill those positions. And then we have 1 grade level retirement that we are recommending that we replace. And that is, again, due to the class size at Maplemere. Maplemere has a significant, space.
Busting at the seams, yeah.
Yeah.
We got it.
Willow Ridge, due to our numbers, we are recommending that we add a UPK room at Willow Ridge. That would bring our total from 8 to 9 of in-house UPK sections in the district. We also have a need for a new special self-contained exceptional classroom, and we recommend that we house that classroom at Willow Ridge.
Do we have
We-
space?
I was gonna say, do we have the
Yep,
space?
because
for
we're
2?
going to consolidate a couple rooms over at Willow Ridge. So we have 1 retirement in speech that we would need to replace by mandate. We have 3 grade level retirements. We're talking about replacing 1 of those grade levels. So there's 2 rooms right there that we would gain due to class sizes. So we are, I put a caveat in there. UPK registration could change that recommendation, which is going on right now here in Virgil's this week. But we're recommending that we consolidate a 2nd and a 4th period class. That would go period class, for a 2nd and a 4th section. Both of those grade levels have 4 sections. We would take them down to 3. There is 1 art teacher retirement that we would have to replace and 1 PE retirement that we would have to replace by mandate.
Because some of our added kids speak a different language, is there any need, or are we holding steady there with the need for an extra ENL teacher?
I'm glad you asked. So the middle school, we are recommending the addition of a 0.5 ELL teacher to address that need. That teacher would be split between the middle school and the high school. We are currently working on our German teacher is retiring. He does teach a 0.5 at the middle school. That's going to be a very difficult position to replace, but we are going to try and replace it with a 0.5 German teacher. If we can't We would request that we add a 0.5 Spanish teacher to pick up the load there. What we're going to seek, and I'll get to that in a minute at the high school, is to bring back our German teacher to help our students that are at the high school in the higher level German classes finish their sequence here at Sweet Home. So we're working on that now.
We're going to work on phasing that out.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what we're doing. It's not because we want to, I just don't feel like we're going to be able to staff it. We're going to try, but we do have kids taking German, and we like to have the extra language here. It's truly a benefit for our kids, but I'm not optimistic about being able to fill that position.
No, I prefer us to see us move to different languages anyways.
Yep. And actually, that's been a discussion in district office. Is Arabic an option for us? More languages that our students speak here. We have 2 grade 6 retirements and core courses that we would have to replace. We also have a reading teacher retirement that we would have to replace. 1 PE health retirement there that we would have to replace, music retirement, and there is 1 encumbered art teacher. So it's not necessarily a replacement, but you may see a posting for a art teacher at the middle school.
Is that in addition?
No. So that's a position that's filled right now by a long-term sub that would be encumbered if that teacher doesn't come back. So when I say you may see a posting, if the teacher does not come back, then we post it and like it's a regular job, do a full search. At the high school, there's that 0.5 I talked to you about that would be shared with the Heritage Heights. We do need 1 additional special education teacher to accommodate a life skill 22-year-old mandate. So what that means is the state changed the regulations on special education students that they can stay in their education until they are 22, not 21. We have several students that would fall into that category, and we would be mandated to obviously fill that position with a new special education teacher.
Dr. Janatra, would that be a new classroom then too in the high school outside of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you do if you have, not as many kids wanting to stay until 22? What do you do with that teacher then?
So we've already, the students that we know that are going to fill that mandate, we've already talked to their families and they are staying.
Okay. So you have a
And
number in mind?
yes.
Okay.
If they don't, that's a conversation we have to have. But our special ed needs continue to
Right.
increase. Sorry, I lost the, I don't know what happened here, Don.
Back.
Oh, all right.
Social studies.
Social studies, we have 2 retirements happening in social studies. We're proposing right now that we replace 1 of those positions. I talked to Mr. Critelli at the high school guidance counselor on yesterday. He is charting to fill classes for next year. So that may change. We may need to replace both, but we are holding off on replacing both as of now. And him and I are going to have a conversation once the spring progresses. So right now we feel like we could fill that with 1 position. We have a business teacher retirement that we would need to replace, a technology teacher retirement that we would need to replace, 2 language positions. We would replace at that 1.5. That's the German teacher. And then we have 1 PE retirement and 1 math retirement, all that we would have to replace.
Would we have a better chance of replacing that German teacher if we made that a whole position versus that half?
They just wouldn't have classes to teach.
Oh, okay.
If they were trilingual in that they spoke English, Spanish, and German,
If there was,
Then it
I
would
just
be
wonder if
something
the
more.
pool would be larger
Yeah.
if they knew they were,
If we could find a Spanish German that would fulfill that 0.5, yeah.
The hard part is gonna be finding a
Right.
German teacher.
Finding the German.
But in terms of the language, I'm curious, have we surveyed the students as far as what they are interested in taking? Because I mean,
Yeah.
you know, being straightforward, it would be surprising to me that there'd be enough students interested in German relative to other languages that we would need that to continue. I mean,
Yeah.
but you know, I could be wrong. I'm just saying
I don't
that,
know.
you know, it
It's about-
seems like there's a demand for other languages. But go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
There's like about 20 some kids each year that enroll in our German course and continuously move through. And once they get to that level 3, they don't tend currently. I don't think we have any students in a 4-5
The
progression.
4-5 split, we do have.
Okay.
And we, at the middle school, we had 2 full sections that we have to now convert. So it was actually, the numbers had gone up at the middle school.
What
actually.
are the, I mean, it's Spanish, French.
In German.
In German.
I'm curious, have we ever looked at, because I talked to somebody out in East Aurora. They said they had Latin. They said that class was filled all the time. and
try
it was
finding a Latin
significant.
Yeah, that's
teacher,
a,
though.
Okay.
that was a struggle I already
Okay.
experienced. That's impossible.
Yeah.
It seems, you know, there could be a lot of benefit for certain fields, but I get it. Yeah.
More future.
My husband
could-
took Latin when he was here.
Yeah.
What's
I
that?
mean,
My husband took Latin when he was here.
we open it up, you know, for a language teacher. We could certainly
Yeah.
think
They're
about
hard to come by.
what we want to fill it with.
Yeah, just in looking at the teacher recruitment process that we're going through now with the upcoming fair, there were 0 German teachers.
We didn't even offer it at
So-
our institution.
Overall, we're talking about 25 retirements and replacing with 24 positions, and that includes these additional programs. 1 math interventionist would be an addition or new position, 1 section at UPK, 1 exceptional classroom at Willow Ridge, and 1 exceptional classroom at the high school. So we're really conscious of our class sizes and what that would mean. And so that's what we have right now as a number.
Just to say that one more time, so
Yep.
that 24 includes those 4 additional program
Yes.
areas? Okay.
Yes. And then things that could impact those numbers though, this summer, as we've known, we've had quite a few registrations over the summer. We're going through UPK registration right now. We're also going through K registration. Not all students that are in UPK, not all students that are kindergarten students went through our UPK program. We usually see a bump there. So if we have a bump in kindergarten registration from UPK to K, that could impact those numbers as well, considering where our goals need to be. UPK, there's a mandate, 1 teacher per 18 students in order to receive grant funding. So we are cognizant of that, but we don't know where we are quite yet with K registration. And I just, since COVID ended, I just, put a few slides about how we've really slowed hiring in the district. In the 22-23 school year, we did add 7 faculty members. 1 was a UPK, even though we brought in 8 sections, only 1 was a new hire UPK. And 1 5th grade teacher at Heritage, based on a late summer registration where we needed an additional section. What the board has been very supportive in has been services for our students. So that year we hired 3 special ed students, 1 speech teacher, and 1 high school reading teacher. In 23-24, we added 5 faculty members, all at the elementary buildings, but not 1 grade level teacher. 2 were ELLs based on an increase in our ELL population. 1 was a special ed teacher, and through the board support, we were able to add 2 social workers to the district last year. And just some other trends from 2018-19 school year to the 21-22 school year. We added 51.7 faculty positions in the district. And then in the past two school seasons, 2022 to 2023 and 23 to 24, we added 12 faculty positions, 10 of those in pupil personnel services or special ed in elementary buildings. And that is with the addition of the full UPK, one exceptional classroom, 54 ELL students last year, and additional enrollment across all buildings. Right now, it's an approximate estimate, but we're pretty confident in saying that we are, with these current numbers, we would save about $1.8 million due to the retirements and the consolidations that we are recommending to the board. And that's what I have for our recommendation.
As we're moving forward, we've talked about, you know, the mental health of our kids.
Yep.
And are there any thoughts about adding to further, you know, our trauma
Yeah.
kids are.
Yeah.
they're
The board has
just-
been extremely supportive over the past 2 years in our requests to add to our mental health capabilities here in the district through the addition of special ed, through the addition of psychologists and social workers especially.
We're good.
We feel like we're in a good spot.
now.
We're,
Yes.
yes, as far as staffing, and we are, the work that we're doing with multi-tiered systems and supports, we're looking at our screening process for social emotional learning and how we support students. So it's the staff plus the systems that we need to put in place that we've been working very hard on, and we are in a good place.
Not to monopolize, but is there any additional supports we need to get our schools who are working with Leader in Me up to, is there any additional resources we need for that?
So I'll let Dr. Wilson talk about this in a second, but the board has, again, been extremely supportive of our professional development, especially through the new contract, new teachers contract. We added leadership positions for Leader in Me. We added stipends to those positions. So we have staff members taking those leadership roles in the buildings. We are continuing our efforts to but I would say support Leader in Me at the middle school. And then the high school is starting to take on more and more Leader in Me initiatives as well.
That's coming to fruition because our kids are
Yes.
doing great in elementary,
Yep.
moving up, and you want those support systems as they reach middle and high school. And I feel like it's kind of been lagging.
Yes, we use our title support, our title grants to support much of the Leader in Me programming. But we are expanding. Right now, the middle school has a site license. The high school will be expanding to get a site license and engaging in the survey process that is connected to Leader in Me. Tyler's shaking his head because he was a part of the group that we're doing a re-engagement. So we have the best national coach out there for secondary schools coming in next week to work with the middle school and the high school. So she's going to spend a half day with each. And then we have another day like that we have to plan. So the goal is to have a good plan going into next year. So at the secondary level. And I should say, one of our principals and one of our students are presenting on a panel at Buff State with Leader in Me, Franklin Covey. So.
And all of this is working towards our strategic plan.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Kept your eye on that as you build in these positions.
Yep. Toya's group is still meeting. They had a meeting last week on our teaching and learning to review the goals of the strategic plan to make sure that our goals are being met in year one of the 3-year plan. And so we're very confident that these proposals will meet those goals. However, I'm not afraid to say that if we have additional requests, we will come to you for those requests if they're needed, if we feel like they're needed and they can be backed by the data.
And we just had Superintendent's Conference Day on Friday. Part of the survey was which of the goals for the strategic plan supported your work today on that day. And the responses were equally connected to each of the goals across the entire district. So that we were
And that-
pleased to see that.
That includes moving forward with professional development that staff has
Yes.
needed. And because I feel like we
Yep.
need to take that sometimes to a new level because.
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention too, and thank the boards for their support. I know we're in year 2 now, I think, 2 of our full day UPK. Of course, we got the grant through New York State, but we also received the extension grant, which is another 550,000, I believe, 540,000. So those positions, while we're adding them to our roles, they're being grant funded, and we're confident as every year that grant's going to continue because and then we saw the 2 House bills come out today. There's more support for UPK in those bills, especially in the House bill, I believe, came out today. They're talking about more sustained support for UPK, including a potential $2 billion bond act that would support facilities for building UPK programs. So I don't know if that'll come to fruition. I don't know if you saw that Mr. Johnson did come out today, but I was excited to see that. And I think, UPK should really, the state should really start considering putting it in the foundation aid formula. That's just my opinion, but.
So Dr. Genestri, acknowledging the clear enrollment increases, expanded program areas and services, those I can't argue on an individual basis at all. They seem to make good sense. But just on a macro level, when we talked about adding these 52 positions back in the COVID time, we always anticipated a slug of retirements. And the idea was always going to be to manage to those retirements and to manage our human resources, to move folks in the right spots so that we would absorb those. That hasn't, I mean, at least as the numbers show, hasn't happened. And we've added those, so they've retained, and we've only, I mean, even just this year, it's 20 of the 25 hires are just hire replace. So I'm curious, I guess, maybe it's not something to be answered here. Maybe there's maybe a different way of looking at it, but what happened to those 52 positions? Where did they all go?
So I will say those were added, before I got here. And I would say that a lot of them went into splitting classrooms so we could social distance. From my understanding.
No, I'm saying post, I mean, so that is exactly right. And that's, so I won't debate you on that. I guess what I'm asking is how were those, now that we've not splitting classrooms anymore? How are we use those positions? Where have they gone?
If I could,
Yep.
Dr. Genestri, I would just add that a significant number of those positions went into PPS staffing, special education teachers, ELL teachers, social workers, counselors. A significant number of those positions went into supports, not necessarily classroom teacher positions. And
UPK was another area that we saw where we consolidate and put those teachers in UPK positions.
those needs have only grown over the years as the increase in our in those programs have grown with our ENL population, our L population, and our students with special needs. Those programs have continued to grow, as well as the need to provide additional social emotional supports for our students. And that's where a significant chunk of those positions did go to, so that there's no way to collapse those, if you will. Where the classrooms, as the classroom positions have opened, there's been a significant effort to consolidate classroom positions, but the PPS team is very difficult to collapse, if you will, or condense.
Okay.
If I could just follow up on that, do you have more? Are you?
No, I'm just thinking about
You're
that. Go ahead.
thinking really
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So part of the concern about the lifespan of these positions was that they were grant funded through CARES Act, CARE 2, and American Rescue Plan. So we had like a 4-year window where we had to find a way to deal with those positions. And my understanding is that all of those positions have been moved into our own budget, right?
They have to be, yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
The last of the positions, particularly program and teacher aides that were in the American Rescue Plan, because that's how it was pretty much laid out in terms of how we allocated that money. We moved them into next year's budget, which we have to do because that's the last of the grants to close. That one closes on September 30th of 2024.
Okay.
Any questions?
You still look like you're thinking.
Yeah, I guess then maybe I'd want to, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what my ask is because I don't want to create a homework assignment. But I guess I hear what you're saying about the additional requirements that have arisen. But to me, the math just doesn't seem to work. It's a lot of positions. It's over the 72 positions. And I don't know what, and I guess that's the point is I don't really have the whole picture because I don't know what the attrition was during that time. But it just seems, I'm worried, I guess, that we're looking at these retirements and managing to those retirements and figuring out where our program and service needs are. And I'm worried, not because I have any real suspicion, but just because I don't see it, that we're not looking at the full 400 staff faculty.
Yeah.
If it helps, we did add the 467 students since
No,
before COVID.
yeah, and maybe it all adds up. It's
Which
just-
is like a whole elementary school building.
That's true. That's true.
Think about it that way.
That's actually a good point.
Well, and I wonder, going back to that conversation, 3 years ago, and I remember we mapped out, there was a spreadsheet we looked at and it was being mapped out. There was the actual positions that there would be the attrition element to it, but I just don't recall. And was really the bigger question, though, the funding piece? In other words, we said was it truly we will get rid of the positions, or was it really through retirement we will cover these costs, which we are saving 1.8 million. So
Right.
I think that's also probably a piece of the puzzle. Is that
My own
It is.
mem-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. My own memory of it is it was kind of a combination of the
Yeah.
two. But there's, as you said, the support positions, a lot of that wasn't envisioned when we had that discussion. There was an agreement many years ago that if UPK came into the building, that it would be taught by our teachers rather than outside ones,
Which I
which
agree.
that's 8 of the positions, but you saw that already. You
Yeah.
already got that. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
But those they all moved out of K6 positions somewhere to get into that. So that's a few of, that doesn't obviously cover them all. But yeah, it was kind of a combination of the two. It's, because we didn't want to balloon our budget out of the whole thing, but yet we still wanted to.
And I think, sorry, Joanne, but I think there's still the goal that we have to look at our class sizes at the elementary levels. And if they don't meet those goals and, we can consolidate, we will. I don't think that's particularly over yet with this budget. So we're very cognizant of the board's direction here. And that's why we looked at the numbers hard to make sure that, we're right staffing our district.
And Mr. Feldman, I would just say to help with the numbers, because I appreciate this question. As I look at my numbers over the years, since there's close to 30 of those, I think a little over 30 of those positions are PPS. And 9 of those positions are UPK.
Okay.
So the additional for the growth in enrollment in ENL, well, ENL is included in the other number, but it's a combination of the programs growing, that and the social, I think that played a big piece of it is the social emotional needs of kids.
And I guess that's what it is, right? And I'll stop here because I've taken enough of the board's time, but is that we can see the class sizes, and that's an easy metric, right? Because it's very easy to measure students per teacher in the classroom. What I guess what I'm worried about is we're adding program areas that there aren't service providers, PPS type staff that are underutilized and at grade level, at building level, at something that we're only managing to these individual 25 retirements and figuring out whether or not they need to be replaced. And if not, what other services can we provide? So I just want to make sure that we're looking at the whole chessboard and moving the pieces where they need to move.
That's a great point. And so in our process and what we did, not only did we meet with every building principal and asked for the numbers, or if you wanted to make an additional staff recommendation to us, you had to provide data to back that recommendation. But we also had long talks with Katie Barilari and her team. The question was asked, are we over-servicing or are we meeting the mandate? And if we were over-servicing, then we were not providing that recommendation or addition. So we are getting better and getting to a point, I'm not saying we're 100% there, but we are absolutely asking that question and looking at the numbers to make sure we are not over-servicing where we don't need to.
I would just add too, these are the years too, where we're adding the exceptional classrooms at Maplemere, Willow Ridge and Glendale. So those numbers are tied up in that as well.
Okay. I'm
So
sorry.
I appreciate you asking that question because I had the same thoughts. I've asked about this in the past too. And I'm same thing. I'm trying to figure out in my mind, where did all these people come from? Where did they all go?
Thank you, Dr. Chesney.
And I would just also say, in this timeframe, just, if you think back to some budgetary study sessions that we had, when we talked about adding these positions, it was probably my first or second year in this position. The board collectively, made a commitment that said, as long as we didn't want to you guys didn't want to lay anybody off.
Right.
So as long as we could get them back into the budget, which we've done, that was kind of the plan kind of going forward.
Yeah.
I thought one of the acts actually prevented us from laying them off, didn't they? One of the
There
federal
were a
acts?
couple of the grant, I believe so. I think you're right, yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think you're right.
So just so I can just add on to this, your question here, if we, on your, I think it's page 9, well, on our, the class size comparison from 29 to 20. Because I do think, I just want to make sure that we are, you have indicated this is not over per se, the discussion here, because the
no, we'll look at
target
it
is
every year.
22, right?
Right.
Not one of those classrooms is at 22 from what I see. So I would expect, like, it is not just what we can afford, it's what is the right number.
Right.
Because those resources, if 22 is the right number that we've agreed on, and circumstances change, maybe next year we say it's 21 because something's come up or whatnot, but I do think it's important we continue to monitor, and maybe there's some parsing out here that needs to be done, that it's like, but again, we, right in here, it says target 22 in grades 2 to 5. In 24, there is no one, there is, so we're not there yet.
I would also
say.
note in 2019, there wasn't 22 either. And so to get back, and we've talked about pre-COVID numbers and pre-COVID class sizes. 22 is our number. That's what we're looking for in 2 through 5. And we're going to try and get there. We did not go below 3 sections in any building for any grade level. And where there were 4 and we could consolidate it to 3, we did do that in every circumstance.
And I would caution when you're looking at these numbers, this is an average across all 4 elementaries in every classroom. So some might have 23 where others have 14. So when you average them, the average number is obviously not going to be 22. So if we're looking at these and we're looking at averages of 22, that means somebody's probably got 26 and somebody's probably got 18. So we need to
Usually,
be.
isn't it, when new students are coming in, isn't it usually sort of rotated amongst teachers, so they're similar class sizes as much as possible?
There's a balance. There's some that are really off balance.
Thing.
but
Within a building.
We try, yeah. We try to balance it within the building, but there are some, to Mrs. Battaglia's point, that are a little more off balance, and that could be a whole host of reasons, siblings together or twins. I mean, you don't.
There's a lot of reasons that it
Yep.
would be off balance,
Yep.
but I just want to be cautious that when we're looking at these and we see, Heritage second grade is at 20 or Glendale third grade is at 21, it's not because 2 of the 3 classes have 21 and 1 has 20. That it's across the entire district. So just be cautious. I would get more nervous if I saw more 22s on here than I do, because I would be worried about those classes that are over the 22 that would
And
be-
I agree. My only thing I would say is in my experience dealing with averages, there's usually half above and half below. Everything's below in these numbers.
Yeah.
And so I'm just emphasizing that or wanted to point out that in understanding that we're still working on this. This
Oh,
isn't
yeah,
still
yeah,
where we're
absolutely.
Going, because I think,
Yeah.
we talk about the student of the future, that, there's a few years from now, there's going to be discussions maybe about adding artificial intelligence programming class. And it's, beyond this is like, where are those teachers? Where are they needed? And that may mean, some of these other areas to help, but it may mean then some of the traditional classrooms maybe a little bit higher to accommodate some, specialized programs and whether it's reading and literature, and whatnot. So it's not an issue of class per class. It's really a question of resources and where are they best utilized. And it's one metric, but I think, it's just, I think we've talked about it enough.
I'm so sorry. We've talked about it enough, but I just have one more question. When we say target 22, is it that it is our goal to lift our class sizes to 22, or is it that we would like to not have class sizes over 22?
So I think it's a little bit of both, Ms. McDonald. There was a class size, I believe at Heritage of 23 or 24 this year. We're okay with that. That's not out of the realm, that's not damaging to students at all. It's just been the goal. We looked at past numbers. I was, we used 2019 as a reference, but we could go back further to see what life was like at Sweet Home Elementaries. I think this district has taken pride in having smaller class sizes compared to some of our neighbors. So while it's the goal, it's not the hard mandate number. And if we go up above it a couple or below it a couple, I think we're okay with that and can work with that.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And while I'm here, I just might as well go through the rest. Okay with that. Some sad news to report. One of our members of our Sweet Home family passed away. I should say March. Oh, man. Oh, sorry. Those are dates of service. He passed away a couple weeks ago. Larry Zarambo was a longtime bus driver in our district, loved by the staff in our transportation center. They're definitely mourning his loss there. He worked at Sweet Home from October 1999 to May 2023 when he retired. Gave a lot to Sweet Home and the district. I did not personally know him, but what I've heard about him, and I don't know, Don, if you want to say a few words, but the staff is definitely sad, and just want to thank Larry for all of his years of service and wish the best to his family.
So he had been sick for some time, and we were at the transportation department on Friday. They were pretty broken up about it. Just a guy that huge heart, love working with kids. And when his wife came in to meet with Scott Kennedy to talk with him, just to let him know that Larry had passed, Sweet Home had made such an impression on Larry and the family that Larry's wife asked how they could give back. And Scott immediately, to his credit, said, well, we have this education foundation that, works with, disadvantaged families and things along those lines. And in lieu of flowers, the families decided that, to memorialize Larry, to give donations to the Education Foundation, which was pretty cool. It was really pretty cool.
Just quickly, Larry lived directly across the street from me, my neighbor. I've known him for, again, 20 plus years too. And I did get over the visiting hours and I talked with quite a few of the people from transportation while I was there. And just what you said, they were all, and just as a neighbor, he was the same type of guy. He took care of the lady on the other side of the street for years after her husband passed. And he was just that kind of guy. We used to spend a lot of time outside whining about the snow together. But he was a great guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we wish the best to his wife and his family and thank them for their kind donation to the Education Foundation. I know one of the rules about auditing is that you should never talk about an audit because you're about to get audited. But through some conversations I've had with some of my colleagues, I just wanted to give, number one, the board, I know you know about the audits that we go through, but we have been under siege by New York State, I would say. Since I've been in the district, there are 16 of them on there. They take a tremendous amount of work. Some of them are mandated, like our internal and external audit. So you'll see a total of 2 on there. But the rest are, not really mandated, but they come up, and it would seem like since January 1st, one new audit pops up in my email a week. Last week it was lunches. The week before that, it was title funding, ARPA funds, UPK quality assurance, you name it. We have gone through it over the past 2.5 years, including a comprehensive state comptroller audit. First and foremost, these audits have come back clean, as you know, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I've asked around to some of my colleagues. They don't seem to be getting as many as we have been getting here at Sweet Home. But I just want to thank Don and his team, Toya and her team, Katie Barilari and her team, Nicole Cuss, for the tremendous amount of work it takes from them to do these audits. And we've been pre-audited for an audit that might be coming. I mean, I'm not kidding with that. And so I just wanted to bring the board's attention to the list of audits that we have gone through since my time in the district, and thank our team in district office especially, and in special services for the amount of work. These take months to complete, and it's a tremendous amount of work.
So this is a lot of manpower. Why are they coming? I mean,
So the unwritten rule is that when you get a new superintendent, you're going to get some audits, but this is
ridiculous.
tremendous amount.
Seems like a lot.
It's a lot.
Is there anyone we can, or maybe you just don't want to, I don't know, but is there someone we can say, look, this is
Yep.
kind of above and beyond?
So
I have talked to Dr. Capuana about it, and he even is surprised by the list. I was at a superintendent's meeting. I asked the 19 in the room, and nobody raised their hand that they had this many.
So I appreciate an audit because an audit, it provides feedback. There's important
Absolutely.
feedback that comes there. The thing that I struggle with is the timeline and the expectations of each of these. I'll give you 2 examples real quick because I don't want to take too much time. The title fund monitoring one that we are in now presently, and Toya's been a huge help to that, monitors the title funding in Title I, Title II, Title IV, and homeless and youth, all of which we receive funding on. We got notification on that on February 1st. They asked to have it back to them on February 15th. To which, in between, we had to have a meeting to kind of a kickoff. And Tom Roberts and I were in the meeting, and I told our reviewer that this timeline is absolutely ridiculous. Now, he extended the timeline a month, but I shouldn't have to ask that question, number one. So number 2, the Education Stabilization Monitoring Survey, the Coordinated Monitoring Review. Folks from the state came and spent time with the business office, my team in the business office, for a day and a half. In January of 2023. That's right. They monitored the CARES Act, the CURSA Act, which is CARES 2, and the American Rescue Plan. They didn't call it an audit, they called it a review in the event that we were ever to be audited. Because what is happening is the federal government is passing money to the state, and then the state is passing it to us. So it's a CYA for the state, more so than anything else. But they reviewed us. They were here for a day and a half. There was countless amount of hours of work that was done. We put it in, we didn't get into the portal, we didn't get feedback for a year. Now, that's because our reviewer went out on medical leave unbeknownst to us. This thing has been in the portal for almost 2.5 years. We've spent and exhausted 2 of the funds, CARES and CURSA, they're closed. I got a kickback from the state. This week, we have another meeting on Thursday to try and get it closed. I've spent 2.5 years on this thing.
So
Are
who do you
they
complain
not-
to?
Are they
Justifying their jobs?
looking for the reason that we're not complaining about taking in the asylum seekers?
No, you know, again,
We're saying we don't need, we're good,
in both of these instances,
and now they're
they
saying.
first, they came up, and Mike was in the first meeting in each of
Yep.
them. This is not an audit. Not an
They
audit.
said it's not an audit, but
Anything.
we're gonna need this,
Got
this,
it.
this.
We want to see.
Looks like.
And every one of these gets kicked back with comments and things that need to be, and that's universal across school districts, but every single one of them gets kicked back for, like I said, corrected active plans or comments or no, this didn't fit here and you put it here. I mean, it is just months and months of work for
Where
each
do you
one.
take this? I mean,
I don't know if you can do anything. It's and the part, every time I've talked to a reviewer, the part is, again, for us is the timing. Like there are,
right.
we all have something to do. Like when this Title I hit, I go, we're in the middle of I'm trying to put together a budget. How am I supposed to do that if you want me to drop everything and do
But why are they
this?
not doing other districts to this
Oh,
level?
they are. They
But
are.
not to this level.
Not to
No,
this extent.
we seem to be hitting the wheel every time.
There's something personal going on or that we need.
I've
to-
asked that question to Mrs. Jason and it's luck of the draw.
Luck of the draw.
I've been told it's been luck of the draw.
So if
Because
this
again, every one
continues-
of them has come back squeaky clean.
Right. So
Um,
it's not like we had things and they had to come
No.
back and make sure we did them. They've been clean.
Right.
So I don't understand the basis for continued over and over
That was the unwritten rule, but they've taken it
to another level.
to another level. I've never seen it like this in my 8.5 years as a superintendent. This is beyond. So I broke the golden rule of auditing, but it needed to be said because in recognition, look, I agree with Don. You want to be audited. You want to make sure your practices and policies and procedures are correct, and that anything that needs to be corrected gets done. This is just taking it to another level.
We're
So
not arguing that, but we're
Yeah.
saying spread the wealth. I mean, we
Yep.
shouldn't be,
Yeah,
it almost feels like they're picking on us, like trying to go out of their way.
Or let us clone Ron, because he needs another set of hands.
it,
Fair to his office either.
It's-
No.
well, again, I do appreciate, it's a team effort. And it's not just the business office, it's the special education office, it's the Office of Instruction. Getting information out from Human Resources and WinCap, it's Christie and Food Service, it touches everybody unfortunately. But, it's been a tough couple of years. It's been tough.
If it continues, we're gonna have to hire somebody just for audits.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But I do think if it continues,
So
I
we
mean,
need to
I
do-
actually, quite honestly, like, a lot of this is a waste of district time and
Oh,
resources.
I would agree.
And so if
100%.
it does
Yes.
continue, I think it's something we should know about because I understand we say, well, there's nothing we can do. Well, I get it. Some of these are required and some of them come up randomly, but they shouldn't be coming up year after year after year. That's beyond random.
So I would just say that, the horse is dead, I get, but the processes in it, like, just again, from the federal grant process, I'll just use CARES Act as an example. We have to submit an application for the CARES Act that details a spending plan. Details what we're gonna spend it on. It gets sent to state ed. State ed goes, yep, go ahead and spend it. The way that you said it. So then while they come back and I go and I get feedback on things that I've already spent on, that I've already issued money for, and I get feedback that said, you shouldn't have done it this way, you should have done it that way. My argument is, why did you then approve my grant? Why did you approve my grant to spend it this way if I was only gonna get dinged on it later because I wasn't supposed to spend it that way? So it's backwards. I
Yep.
almost said Backwards.
Try to get a building project approved at state ed. It's a year and a half. Need an audit? They're on it.
Okay, sorry, my soapbox is done.
I wanted to take a moment to, and we'll get them here at a future meeting, to congratulate some of our Sweet Home track athletes for representing Sweet Home at the New York State finals. Bretton Baker, son of Mr. Derek Baker, defended his New York State title in jumping 6'9" in the high jump. Super proud of him. He's got an amazing future in track and field. The 4x200 placed relay team placed fourth in the state. Their members were Emery Scott, Bretton Baker, Cameron Stoudemire, and Nair Patterson. And Taylor Nugent placed second in the state for the race walk, which was her personal best time. So we'll get those athletes here representing us at state competitions, and just want to say congratulations to them. The 4x200 and Brenton, those, I know he's in both. They're competing in Boston this week in a national tournament and representing Sweet Home in a national tournament. So congratulations, and thank their athletes and their coaches, Mr. Bullock, for all their hard work. They'll be here in a future meeting. We're excited that the Addams Family will be taking place this weekend, March 15th and 16th, 7:30 in the auditorium. The new first musical in the new Aud, so promises to be exciting. And then March 17th at 2 p.m. So that barcode will get you a link to buy tickets to go see the Addams Family. And I walked past the Aud today. There's a lot going on outside there. It should be a fun weekend. As you know, I sent the board the results of our focus groups, and no surprise in some of the areas that our stakeholder groups identified as areas we need to consider during our next capital project: space at the elementary schools, cafeterias, state-of-the-art classrooms and learning opportunities, updated outdoor spaces at the elementary schools, outdoor drainage, redesign of parking lots at our elementary buildings especially, lighting, seating options. I know security was mentioned in some of the comments. Updated bathrooms and aesthetics are important, but the board has the entire report, and we will put that up on our website for our community to see. Then finally, tonight in the agenda, I think this is fine. Yes, you will see, we've talked about it a few months back, a resolution to work with Hodson Russ on a national lawsuit against social media companies for the harmful effects that they've had on our children when it comes to addictive nature and their social and emotional well-being and their mental health. So by joining this national lawsuit, there's really no liability to the district or expense unless we win, and then our payout would cover legal expenses. So what's most important is that this issue gets addressed, and we know the harmful effects social media, we see it every day, especially at our middle school. We know the harmful effects social media has on our children and their mental health and well-being. And so we know their brains are still developing, and these are really harmful tools that they use at times. And through your support, we're happy to be a part of this. That's what
Just wanted to add on the social media lawsuit part, and I do think, and I've mentioned this, I know we had a conversation about having social media free day or social media free week or things like that. And I personally believe that this is a very important. I know where we have the mental health and the emotional support pieces. We've had the event a few months ago with the parents, but I think it's important we continue to do this, because the fact is we are putting our names into this lawsuit, recognizing that there's an issue here.
Yep.
And so the question is then, what are we doing about it as a district, and to what degree? I mean, if, when we knew that cigarettes are harmful, right? They were banned on campus. but how much is, and I know there are benefits to social media from, getting information out there. But I do think as a board, it is an issue that we need to continue to think about, and as a district of like, how can we work to put our students in the best position to manage and deal with this? Because adults struggle with issues. I mean, and even beyond just, I like within the classrooms, we talk about Leader in Me and that, but Leader in Me, part of this is also, how are you leading yourself and living your life? And these principles by which we help our students have tools to understand that that there are significant benefits from taking a break, from detaching, not only, from like a health perspective, but also just, when you get away from it, I will say, you realize how much you don't need it, right? And so I think that that's important, because, again, we're recognizing here the fact that we're participating in this, we're recognizing like this is a problem. Well, recognition is one thing, but what are we doing about it? And I think it needs to be continued to be addressed, even within the student body as well. That's just.
And I will say, to your point, Mr. Leibel, so we've added a lot of social emotional positions in the district through the board support. They are dealing with this every day. And I know they're taking proactive strategies with our students as well. We do have digital citizenry at the middle school. I think we need to beef up our curriculum a little more in this area. Our safety night, I would say 80% of that night. And we're going to talk about doing that again. We need better attendance there. And a lot of it was, on social media and the harmful effects. And we're going to continue to look at ways we can absolutely carry this message forward. But I think a big piece of that is the board support of this too, and getting the word out there. And that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so upcoming events. We have some PTA, PTSA meetings. The musical obviously is this weekend. The craft show is this weekend. All sorts of things. Open session. Yeah, we're gonna move on with that. New business, we'll be voting on new business next week. We have an array of things. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about any of them?
I'd like to thank Sherry for the 319 pages of special ed that I'm reading.
Make sure it was right.
Oh. That, I will have it read by next week.
On letter B, the proposition number will be on the agenda for next week. And the transportation bid, we'll have more information for next week. Other than that, does anybody have any questions?
Mrs. Battaglia, just for clarity, proposition number 2 is for authorization to spend general fund to pay for the lease for the Maplemere temporary classrooms. That again, because we're not paying out for it out of federal funds, we have to do it out of the general fund. And state ed says that we have to do that. We've spoken with our attorney, and we're actually going to put forth a 2-year lease to allow us to keep them for 2 years.
Right, and we won't have to do it again next year.
That's my hope.
Any questions, comments, concerns about any of A through G?
Just for E, will we have that money filled in next week?
Yes.
Yeah, we're opening the bid on Friday.
Thank you.
Okay, informational items. Hunter?
So on February 28th, student government hosted the Maplemere Leadership Day for about 500 of those elementary students. It was an amazing opportunity, and on behalf of our organization, I'd like to thank Mr. Ryan, our principal at Maplemere, and his staff for allowing us to host this day for the last, I think this is third or fourth year now. It's an incredible day for all of our members. It sounds to us like the students also had fun learning about the topics of diversity of Sweet Home, why it's important to learn about them. And we're meeting with Mr. Ryan on Thursday this week to go over how the event went, how it can be improved. And then also on Thursday, Student Gov was invited to preview the high school's musical, along with some of our other academic groups and clubs at the high school. Personally, I am very much looking forward to it. I already have my tickets for Friday night, and I would encourage anyone who has not gotten them to purchase them. Seats are filling up fast. And then we are now 2 weeks out from holding our spring fling dance for student government. That'll be Friday, March 22nd from 6 to 9. Been a little bit of a struggle trying to find enough chaperones, but we're finally there. And earlier this year, I asked our student wellness chair, Catherine Almodower, to take over the planning and oversee the design and vision for this dance. And she's come back to our executive team with the most incredible vision for what she wants it to be. I've authorized the largest budget for decorations on a dance since student government was founded. So I hopefully am very optimistic that it will work out. I'm excited for all of our students to see her vision come to life. I want to thank her for her hard work. We would not have been able to do any of this without her. And I hope this is one of the most memorable dances for our students, especially our seniors who are leaving us in just about 3 months.
But who's counting?
That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Ms. Jason?
First, can I say wow? Okay.
Yes.
Just, no words can express how great this looks. This is a real compliment and real statement for our district. So really nicely done. And I've heard feedback about the same thing. I mean, even the quality of paper is just very well done. Someone handed me the 75th annual All County Music Festivals that our kids attended. So we had a few kids attend that. I did bring in, because I didn't mention that, about Mr. Baker's son, and nice in the Amherst B. And then when I went over to the musical at middle school, I was sitting in the back and one of the teachers came up to me and said, "Oh, are you one of the bus drivers?" So I thought at that point, I better make a little more appearance over there. So I went and had a hour chat with Ms. Doria, and we kind of just talked about general things at school and where she sees the building going. So it was very productive chat. And then I went to PTA meeting at Maplemere. They had their skating event, which first one, and it was a huge success. Anybody who's hungry, March 14th is their McTeacher night over at the McDonald's on Sweet Home and Sheridan. Is that kind of the border? What else? And a flyer was sent home because on March 21st, they're going to do an internet safety meeting over Zoom. And that's about it. And then I did mention to them about our role in the assessments and equalization. And I like the letter that you put forth to people, just explaining what we do have control over and what we don't. And more information to come about that.
And I did fail to mention, the supervisor apologized that he could not be here tonight, but he did commit to the 19th of March, so he will be here next week.
And he will be talking about what
The
only?
Boulevard Mall.
Only.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald?
I attended just for this meeting, the PTA meeting at Heritage Heights. I also shared some more information about assessments and taxes and how that has anything to do with us, which is not much. They're doing a bunch of really cool stuff right now. They are preparing for Thursday night. They're having their solar eclipse STEM experience. It looks like it's going to be a really cool time. They're transforming Heritage Heights into a sort of solar eclipse museum with lots of interactive things for kids to do and learn about. There is a lot of partnership going into this event. They are working with Buff State, their Professional Development Schools Consortium is doing a lot of the, they're bringing volunteers. They are providing a lot of, they're bringing the pizza. They're just bringing a whole bunch of stuff. Tops also donated. Favorites Pizza donated. Sweet Home Food Services donated. So there's just a lot of teamwork going into this event. There's lots of teachers who are volunteering, but they do still need volunteers because it's like, this is a big thing that they're doing. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, you can email hhpta228@gmail.com. That is their PTA email, or you can go to their Facebook page and there's a link to the sign up sheet. They would really like to have volunteers there. And I'm pretty sure all the kids are gonna get the solar eclipse glasses, which is super fun. They are also doing a very cool initiative, which I unfortunately was not able to stay long enough to hear a ton about. But 6 teachers from Heritage Heights are going to be traveling to Ghana to do an outreach program with teachers and a school in Ghana that they are connected to through a family at Heritage Heights. It seems like a really, really cool program. I have flyers, which I passed out to everyone beforehand. They are accepting donations for them to take with on this trip, including school supplies, personal hygiene, and footwear. And those can be dropped off with Mary Rayo at Heritage Heights. They're also accepting checks, which you can make payable to Dollars for Scholars, Attention, Mary Rayo, and Ghana Outreach. So I think this should be available online somewhere, but I don't know where I can get that information to people. And if anyone wants a flyer, I just think that's such a cool project that they are embarking on, and I'm really excited to see what comes from it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman?
Just one thing, I attended the chef meeting. They reported out the financials on the meat raffle, which was a resounding success. They raised quite a bit of money. They're pretty heavily focused on presence at various activities, starting with the craft show this weekend. And then it's going to be prom season soon enough. So they're getting ready for the prom dress closet and the dress closet for men. So it'll be a good. So everybody looking over my shoulder. I'm like, what's going on back here? That's all I have, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leibel.
Yeah, I earlier today attended the athletic committee. That is it was our second meeting. And again, as I mentioned last time, we're very enthusiastic and good group of people. And Mr. Belante was also in attendance. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on it as well. But from my perspective, it's just it's good that we are looking at this from a variety of angles in terms of facilities. That was an area we focused on today, but also in terms of, how do we continue to enrich our athletics programs, and how do we continue to encourage students into athletics and the various sports, because some programs really have a lot of student athletes and other ones are struggling at times. So what can we do starting at a young level and a young age to encourage interest in the various sports and in other areas too, including media and whatnot. So that was a good session we had today. PTO for Willow Ridge. I attended that last week. The big issue there is there's a lot of officers who are, I don't know if the word would be retiring, but just, stepping down from that role because just in large degree, their sons or daughters are moving on to the middle school. And so, there is definitely a need for some officers there if anybody's watching and interested. They also, part of PTO, but there was multicultural night not last Friday, the Friday before that, and that was a very nice event. They had Irish dancers, there was henna there was a variety of food and activities. I mean, it was one of the best ones in terms of attendance that I've been to in a number of years. So that was really nice to see. The student source, I also appreciate, and I know got a lot of feedback from that even within my own family. My daughter was in it as well, so that helps. On the Amherst Bee, I did want to mention, I was happy to see the honor roll. I don't know who,
Got it back?
how that got it back in there, but I did see it in there. So that's nice to see that we are, recognizing the academic element, because the sports are always, recognized in the Amherst Bee. So it is nice to see the academic piece. And the only other thing I have gotten questions on is the calendar, particularly around the spring vacation. I think some of the other schools have indicated that that may be changing to 2 weeks next year. And I just didn't know if we're at a point where we're providing any of that information, or, where we stand on that.
So I'm on the calendar committee for Erie One BOCES, and there is always discussion every year about 2 weeks versus the split break. There's positives and negatives for both. What we have done traditionally is follow the BOCES calendar or the BOCES recommendation, because that's when BOCES is open. And so a lot of our students who take CTE courses or special ed over there would be, in session or out of session when they have done that. It is certainly up to the discretion of the board to decide what the spring break would look like. But traditionally, our recommendation would be to follow that calendar because it lines up with a lot of our students' schedules. So they would either have to make up that time or we would have to figure out other arrangements for transportation. I will also say there's been a lot of discussion at those meetings regarding religious holidays and how they are going to be played out. Our friends in Williamsville have added religious holidays to the calendar, but have also called them superintendent conference days. So staff is reporting on those days, but students are not. So I see a lot of changes coming down the road with the calendar. It's also being more and more condensed every single year, which is becoming more of an issue because you have to fit in the 180 days in the calendar, and then districts are following contracts. Because of the way our contract is written, it's a pretty condensed calendar, and there's not much flexibility for days in there. So that's been our recommendation, mainly because BOCES is in session during that time.
When do we vote on the calendar?
The calendar committee is going to be getting together in the next week or two, and then I think they meet twice probably, and then it comes in May.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Just a couple things. I attended it was about a month ago, a building use committee. We reviewed the thought exchange stuff, and we spent the majority of the time talking about various options of doing it, in particular, the dealing with Dexter Terrace and how we would have to deal with that. I also, the week after that, went out with Ms. Ballas and doing the site risk assessments, where we visited some of the buildings and looked at the various things that we have to take into play for our safety plans and a few other things. We did identify a handful of different things. It was fairly consistent across the schools, each of those things we would need to do. I missed the PTA meeting at Glendale because it happened to be the same night as the wake for Larry. But I did ask Karen to pass along a few things for me, and she did that. And lastly, last week, I was asked to be on, there's a task force that New York State School Boards has put together for dealing with the annual meeting that lasted just short of 8 hours last year. And they want to figure out how to shorten that down a little bit. And I was appointed as the chair of that committee, and we had our first meeting last Wednesday. They did send out just yesterday the PowerPoint that they used for that meeting. I'm going to share it with you guys to see there were some interesting ideas and the amount of work that they've already put in the background with the executive board for the, to things that they thought about what we might try and change, a few things that they are going to change. But, a lot of things that people are starting to talk about that we probably can't do, but they're still looking for a way. We don't want to go another 8-hour meeting. It was long. So, and then I've got 2 more meetings on that. There'll be one in April, one in May. And that's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Bellanti?
Let's see. So I attended some of the playoff basketball games that were hosted at Sweet Home. Fortunately, I did not make some of the away game. I was just busy that day. I had a delegate assembly meeting for the Erie County Associations of School Board on the 29th. We approved the budget for 24-25. There are no fee increases. Award nominations closed Monday and they're meeting on Wednesday to go over them. And they went through the list of spring events they're offering. If anyone wants them, I can send them to you. We had the athletic council meeting today. Mr. Leibel covered most of everything that was in there. And then this past week, I spent a couple of days in Albany meeting with legislatures, talking about foundation aid, CTE aid, APPR, teacher center funding, and fixing tier 6 for the teachers. So looking forward to the play this weekend, and we have a PTA meeting on Thursday.
We do.
Mentioning those awards, Kaylee, did you put in there was some awards you were,
Yeah, we're still working on it. I'm just waiting on some numbers, but then I think it's pretty much ready to go. Cool.
thank you. Thanks for doing that, Kaylee.
Very exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will hold off till next week. You had one thing to add?
Yeah, speaking of the eclipse coming, as you know, that is not a day of classes for our students. They are off that day. All of our students will be getting eclipse classes with a sheet home with instructions on how to use them and how to properly prepare for the eclipse. But we do have 12-month employees that are not off that day. We're monitoring what the county executive is saying about travel during that time. We wanted to propose that it would be for 12-month employees, a half-day workday in person, and then the rest would be remote on call to fulfill the day. And just wanted to get your take on that, as transportation sounds like it's going to be messy starting around noonish on Monday, the 8th. So I just wanted to float that with the board and see if anybody had any objection to that before we throw that out there to 12-month employees.
Will they have a little time to go out and look at it themselves?
They should be working we're working on audits that day, so I hope so.
He's gonna stare into the sun so he doesn't have to.
My eyes got crossed. I will say that we do provide transportation to some private and parochials that I'm looking at a list now from Scott Kennedy. There are 3 schools that will be in session that day. Jewish Heritage School, they're releasing kids at 4 o'clock. Park School releasing kids at 1 o'clock, and Nichols are releasing kids at 1:45. So we will be driving that day. This may change, subject to change, obviously, but we will have drivers out on the road.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, open session. All right, personnel will be voting on these appointments next week. Any comments or questions before can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting to a voting meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion and a second to amend the agenda to add Edward and Renee to our BOCES Board of Ed nominations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I couldn't do this without Sherry. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve new business item A?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion and a second to approve personnel item 1C, spring coaches.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.